Well, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to today's webcast entitled Reimagining Video Surveillance, Fewer Investigations, and More Proactive Crime Prevention. I'm Rodney Bosch, Senior Editor of Security Sales and Integration. It's good to be with you all today. Before we get going, I need to take care of some quick house cleaning. The audio portion of this webcast is broadcast over the internet. If you run into any audio trouble, select the question mark in the upper corner of the Global Meet interface and select Test My System Now. This will give you information about your connection and how to remedy any problems you may have. Oftentimes, if you just disconnect from the webinar and then rejoin, it will allow you to catch a better audio stream. We'll be taking your questions today following the main presentation. On the left side of your screen, you'll see a box labeled Ask a Question. That's where you can enter any questions you may have. Questions related to the webcast topic will be held and answered during the Q&A at the end of the event. Questions related to technical issues can also be entered in this box, and they'll be answered immediately by our webcast producers. And now I'd like to introduce our featured guests. Grant Cowan is Salient's Director of Key Accounts. He's going to be joined, we hope, by Keith Abele, Chief Security Officer for Salient. Keith's having a little bit of some technical issues, as fate would have it, but we're trying to work out the kinks so he can join us. Meantime, gentlemen, for now, just Grant, the floor is now all yours. Please get us underway with today's webcast.
All right, thanks, Rodney. Appreciate it. Yeah, like Rodney said, unfortunately, Keith is having a little technical difficulty. You would think after this many months or years of this, we could get this figured out. But so we're going to kind of skip Keith's portion, and hopefully he'll jump on at the end and kind of add back in. If not, I'll go through his portion. But we wanted to just take some time and talk about how integrators can better prepare their retailers and end users in general when it comes to preparing for the future. So Keith was going to hit on kind of the end user perspective. Keith is a longtime executive in the retail space, coming up through Walmart and eventually running the loss prevention for Walmart, and then moving over to Home Depot and running in the C-suite there for Home Depot as they made their big turn into a safer and more global company. And then Keith's also been doing consulting work for retailers on a global basis over the last 20 years as well. So he's going to really hit on the end user perspective. But what I wanted to talk about today is, this is kind of a whiteboard scenario that I use as a technology provider for my integrators and my end users. And so when we're walking through end users, our retailers out there in the space, this is the exact scenario that we walk them through. And I try to teach this to my integrators as well to help our retailers understand what's available out there and how to do that. And when I first get it on the whiteboard, I started calling it the technology ecosystem. And these are questions that our retailers have to be able to know the answers to, or at least start to get the answers for their specific organization. So, and these are questions that you can really help your retailers out when they're trying to define what their video surveillance strategy is going to be for the next year, the next 5 years, the next 15 years. And when we talk about these questions here, these are things that can help you guide along the way. A lot of times our integrators and our retailers are so busy just trying to clear tickets, trying to take care of problems, that there's really no planning for what's going on with the future. And a lot of jobs, the job as a technology provider and as an integrator, sometimes we have to slow the customer down and say, hey, let's look at our ecosystem here. Let's see where we're going and how can we do this and capture and use the best technology out there to capture that. So these are the 5 questions that I start with for the customer. And so the first thing that a customer has to really understand and answer is, what is this video surveillance macroverse? And if you're a dad like I am, I have a 11-year-old and 7-year-old, And you move on from the dinosaur questions, being a dinosaur expert, to now I'm supposed to be an expert in the Batman and Spider-Man metaverse and all these things. I have no idea what's going on out there, but you got to go see every movie anyway. So I kind of made up, I don't know if these words exist, but what I tried to define it as is that we need the customer to look at and understand what the video surveillance macroverse is. I think a lot of times as providers, as an integrator or as a technology provider, sometimes we forget that the job of the loss prevention asset protection team in a retail company is to, it's not just video surveillance. It's not just access control. It's it's fraud, it's insurance, all these different things that come into it, risk compliance. There's all these things that come into it. So they may not be a video surveillance expert like you want them to be. So the first thing that the customer really has to do is understand what the video surveillance macroverse looks like. Then they have to kind of look inward and to take what is my customers or my specific microverse look like. Once again, don't know if that word exists, but I'm trademarking it. So then you need to help your end user, your customer, look at what is our endpoint. Okay, where do we want to go? And then the next question, right on top of that, is how do we keep the endpoint open? Because as you know, as I know, as our customers know, is that when we get to that endpoint, we still need to have the flexibility to move to what's next. Okay, so how can we make that endpoint stay open? And then what are the right questions to ask? And I think that's really where, as an integrator family, as a technology provider, that's what we can ask our customers is they need to know the right questions to ask internally to their own organization, and then also ask the right questions to you as the integrator to figure these out. Okay, so those are the 5 things that we're thinking about, and I'm going to kind of go in a little bit further here and define those. So when we talk about the video surveillance macroverse, okay, once again, trademarked, if don't steal that from me. So the first thing that we have to get the customer to understand, and once again, we have some of our loss prevention asset protection for retailers that are they're the nerds. They understand the technology side of it. But remember, a lot of the folks, they don't necessarily know that. So when we go out there and define the macroverse, they need to understand that there's the foundation. It's the video management software. It's the DVRs. It's the NVRs. Maybe it's a cloud-based system. Okay, that's their foundation. Okay, the next thing they need to look at within their organization is who needs to access the video. Is it just loss prevention asset protection? Are we trying to open access to the operations team? Do we need to give access, or are we giving access to our external police departments? Do we need to make sure we have, some type of video access for the C-suite? So do we need to have, clips that the legal team or the president or the CEO can access on his phone or her phone? Security Operations Center. Do we have a Security Operations Center? Do we want to add a Security Operations Center? So by understanding that that's part of their macroverse and where they want to go, these are things that they need to know about and how people are accessing systems. Maybe right now they're only accessing it internally for the loss prevention team. Okay, how do we expand that? Okay, another key piece of the macroverse is cameras, whether it's analog cameras, IP cameras, high definition cameras, high res cameras, 4K cameras, 8K cameras. Do these cameras support artificial intelligence? Do they have video analytics enabled? Do they have just basic motion detection? What's out there? And so the customer, once again, we need to look at and understand that our loss prevention and asset protection customer may not know what the latest and greatest out there. That's not their job, is to know what the technology is. As an integrator, that's our job, is to keep them updated and teach them what's out there. So when our customer says, hey, let's look at the macroverse, we need to tell them everything that's out there from a camera-based side so they know what they can and cannot do. Okay. So, and then the other big thing, video analytics. We need to make sure that the customer knows we have cloud-based analytics. We have basically on-premise, or we can use a server at the store, at the headquarters. We can be more cost-effective and use camera-based analytics. So these are things as part of the macroverse. They need to know what's out there. Okay, and then there's everything else that's in our macroverse: access control, various sensors, POS data, external data points that are coming from the manufacturing facilities, the distribution facilities, the e-commerce facilities, all those different things that our end users need to know that they could be pulling information from. That's all out there. So that's the macroverse. And once again, I really recommend sitting down with your customers and saying, hey guys, It's my job to know the technology. Here's what the technology is. And here's your macroverse. Here's everything out there that you need to know about from a video surveillance standpoint. And here's everything that we need to start thinking about. So by giving them the macroverse and helping them understand where everything is today, then we can start to find a jumping off point. Okay, and that jumping off point is our microverse. Okay, and so the microverse means what day to day, and me, the integrator, and the end user, the customer, the retailer, what are we actually working on? What do we have today? What's in our little world that we're working on? Okay, so the questions that we need to ask when we're whiteboarding this is, what's our video foundation? So going back to, is it cloud? Is it NVRs? Is it a VMS? Is it still analog DVRs? What's our foundation? Where are we starting from? Okay. Who's accessing the video, right? Right now, is it loss prevention asset protection, or is it just a certain number of people? Who's accessing the video? What type of cameras are deployed? What's out there? Do we already have any video analytics? Do we have cameras that have video analytics available, but we're not using it? And what are our, and going back to what our foundation is, or what our cameras are, what are those technology providers thinking? So, what's out there, if we look at our microverse and see what we have for our foundation, what type of cameras are deployed, if we have those, sensors out there on the system, if we have video analytics, what are those technology providers thinking? So we can get an idea. So as an integrator, I can help the customer understand, well, based on what you have in your microverse, and these are where your technology providers are going, and this is where we think they can help you, or these are places where we don't think they can help. Okay. So as an integrator, those, when we look at that microverse, we basically take the same questions we looked at from the macroverse and try to identify exactly what a customer has and what they can and cannot use going forward. Okay. So when we look at the endpoints, and I think this is one of my favorite things as a technology provider, is to really help our customers define the endpoint. Okay. So who do you want to access the video data? This is a great question to ask, because, a lot of our, end user customers, our retailers out there, they assume the video is just for the loss prevention or asset protection team. And it's what we've always done. When we had the CCTV system, there's very limited access. We couldn't use it over a browser. We couldn't pull a video on our iPad or our iPhone. So it was very locked in. And then, so now we really haven't expanded outside of that. So when we're sitting here and whiteboarding with our customers, okay, so we understand what our macroverse, what's out there in the macroverse. We understand what's in our personal microverse. Now, when we look at and defining where we want to go in the next 5, 10, 15 years, where we want this video system to go, the number one thing we have to do is say, who do you want to access video? It seems very simple, but if we want the C-suite to access it, if we want operations, if we want merchandising, if we want the store operations team, hey, maybe the end user wants their vendors to be able to access video somehow, some way, so that they can do remote store audits. Are we going to do store walkthroughs via video? All these things, a lot of these things came up through the pandemic on the limited ability to travel and the ability to go out in the stores. There are a lot more people needed video. And how, as an integrator, can we help the customer understand that the more people that we give access to video within the company, we can really help them set up a good long-term platform for success. How do we want those people to access the video? Is it on their iPad? Is it on their iPhone? Do we want everybody to have basic browser access so we don't have to worry about software updates, things like that? So that's where, once again, defining that endpoint, if we can really understand what's best for loss prevention, asset protection, what's best for our customers, what's best for their IT department, once again, that really allows us to look into the future and say, when we get to this endpoint, we really need everybody to be able to access the video just through a browser or through their mobile app. Okay, because that really fits where the company's going from an IT perspective. These are great questions as an integrator that you can ask. That's really going to help your customer be able to identify and determine where they want to go. Okay, so another great question that you can ask as an integrator is what can video help us with or how can this video help us with the following? What keeps us up at night? What gives us the most headaches? What costs us the most money? Once again, I think, when we take a step back and try to whiteboard this, and when I deal with with my integrators out there in the field and I deal with my end user customers, a lot of times, like I said earlier, we're so busy just trying to fight fires that we're not thinking about all these things that we need to be doing or we want to try to build a roadmap for. And so a lot of times your job as an integrator is to slow your customer down and say, hey, hey, I get we got these fires to fight, but hey, we're going to keep throwing good money after bad if we don't sit here and determine where we want to go. And these are where this number 3 here for these type of questions here is what's costing us, what's giving us the most headaches, how can we what keeps us up at night. These are things that we can really get the customer to start basically telling us and explaining to us more about what's going on with their business that can help us create video solutions or analytic solutions that can help them drive solutions down the road. I don't have to tell you, but as an integrator, if we can help solve these problems, that makes us more sticky. And so they're not out there trying to shop different solutions. We're becoming a valued partner versus just a solutions provider. Okay. So, and then once we get those questions, and hopefully those 3 basic questions that from the previous one will generate more questions, more ideas, more things that come up. And so then the next question we have to ask about all those things that we just got through, and we're starting to whiteboard all those things that are coming from the customer. Can we support? Can technology out there in the macroverse? Can that new technology help us answer those questions and other questions? Right? What can video analytics do? What can a browser-based VMS software do for us? What can a cloud-based software do for us? All these different things. What can AI give us? An AI-based camera or AI-based analytic versus a pure camera-based analytic provide for us. That's where, once again, we go back and reference what's out there in the macroverse. How can we find solutions to these questions that we're getting from the end user out of the macroverse and help solve those problems? Okay. And then the last thing is, when I'm sitting in a lot of these meetings, just like you guys are, it's I'm the technology provider, but my integrators are sitting there right next to me. And a lot of times our meetings are just with the loss prevention or asset protection team, right? We don't ever know who the merchandising team is, the operations team is. Some of our, these elite organizations in the retail space, they're getting everybody to the table. And sometimes we need to, as an integrator, you need to say, hey, I get where we're coming from here, but, we got a lot of retailers out there that are pulling in other teams. And maybe you want to talk to your loss prevention asset protection team and say, hey, can we pull in other people from your organizations to see if we can help them as well, right? And see if there's things that are analytics or are cloud solutions or anything from the macroverse that we could help out with the rest of the organization. And once again, that's providing value as an integrator if we can help reference and frame those questions for our end user customer. Okay. And so this always kind of seems like whenever I get to this point in the conversation and trying to whiteboard this with our integrators and our end users, they always kind of look at me like, well, we got to the endpoint. Why are we going beyond the endpoint there? So I think this is, and I think it's one of the most important things I try to articulate is that once we get to that endpoint, let's say that endpoint, we get to the technology where we want it to be in year 2, year 3, year 5, whatever it is. That endpoint that we get to, we need to make sure our customers out there, they know that once they get to the endpoint, they still need to have the ability to make changes. And as a good integrator partner, I believe that is providing the ability to give them a jumping off point where they can say, hey, we got to where we wanted to be, but when we got there, we left a big enough foundation that we can make changes or we can make additions very quickly and provide a seamless approach to whatever the next problem is. Once again, if you go back to March 2020 and you say, hey, tell me what the next 12 months is like, and nobody would have said, well, we're going to shut everything down. So it's very hard for you, me, our customers to predict what the next global issue or, obviously the big thing in retail now is organized retail crime. We don't know how what's going to happen from a global situation or what's going to happen with from a pandemic situation. Organized retail crime, we don't know how that's going to respond. We look at things out there, down to the legislature for each individual state, how they're going to treat and prosecute or lack of prosecution for our end users when they're, when there's theft and going on in the stores, or whether it's lack of prosecution or people aren't being arrested for certain things that they're doing. Those are all things that we don't have control over. But what we do have control over as an integrator is provide a technology foundation that will be big enough to support future solutions. And that's, so I think the huge thing is that when you're whiteboarding the solution with the customer, and you kind of define that endpoint and say, hey, this is where we want to go, you kind of have to test that with your customer and say, hey, if we get to that endpoint and we need to be able to do something different or add something or add a new analytic to do this or do this, can we do that? And I think it's a great test as an integrator is to test that solution. When we get to that endpoint, do we have the room to move once we get there? Okay. And I think it brings up the great question. Always a question I like to ask is, do we have to anticipate having to go backward to move forward? Right. If we get to the endpoint, we say, well, hey, theoretically on paper, if we get here, but we have an issue where we're going to have to kind of back our technology up or change some things out to move forward again, then I don't think we got to the right endpoint. Okay. And that's really where, when we talk to our customers out there and our integrators are talking to end users, we want to make sure that they test that solution and say, hey, when we get here, I don't want to have to go spend more money to kind of fix the foundation before we move on. Okay. And I always like to use the house analogy. It's a great reference for the video surveillance market is, hey, if I add a third story to my house or add a big add-on addition and I add it, and then I didn't realize I had foundational issues and I got to go back and tear everything down and do the foundation again, that's really what we're trying to avoid is let's make sure the foundation's big enough when we get to that endpoint that if I want to add a third or fourth story onto my house, we're going to be A-okay. And that's really where, as an integrator, if you can provide some testing questions or some scenarios that you can test that endpoint and make sure that endpoint is malleable and it can grow with the customer, those are great things you can help and provide value to your customer with. Okay. So when we look at this, and obviously the big question or the big insight, the big technology thing that everybody's talking about and our customers are asking about it constantly, and I'm sure your retailers are asking you guys as well, is, video analytics categories. Or basically, what are video analytics? What can they help me with? And so I think, when we're looking at that, going back to the macroverse, I think from a video analytics standpoint, it comes down to three basic categories for us. There's shopper insights. Basically, these are our kind of the fun things. How can our customers engaging with products? Try to give the operations team, the merchandising team, awareness of what the store traffic looks like. Customer engagement. Like how are our customers reacting to this or reacting to that? We've had retailers want to know where customers are going in their store after they go to a certain place. All those different things. Those are fun shopper insight. It's a cutting edge technology for the video surveillance space. It's fun. It's amazing to be a part of. And that's really where I think a lot of cool things can happen for our retail customers out there. When we get to the other thing is operational insights and security insights. And so from an operational standpoint, checkout operations are how long are our line queues, curbside operations. In the past 18 months, a lot of our customers have gone to the curbside pickup. What cars are coming in, how many cars are coming in, how long are they waiting before somebody goes out there? Are we shifting the right number of employees to handle the curbside operations? Those are things that are essential to today's type of retail business. Okay. So it's not as fun as a shopper insight. These are things that can help make our business better and make sure that we keep customers coming back. And the third thing that, that your customers are going to be asking about are security insights. And obviously, whether it's active shooter situations, real life security threats, all the way down to, liquid spills on the floor for slip and fall incidents and being able to know real time when those things are happening. Those are security insights that go to the bottom line for our retailers out there. So when we're identifying the macroverse and where things are at, these are the three big things or the three big categories that we see for video analytics that our customers are asking for. So when we look at the macroverse and I try to identify what's out there, these are what are out there. And this is where we really try to get the customer to start thinking about where they want to go with their endpoints. And these are the things does your organization, does your business value these type of insights? And that's really where we can start to define what's going on there. Okay. So technology providers, so from my perspective, what are we thinking? So this is, the last kind of whiteboard question that I present is that I try to go out and when I'm meeting with our integrators nationally and going out to presenting to them, they're always asking us, because we obviously are sitting around, with our team on a daily basis, trying to understand where the world is going, where technology is going, and how we're going to play a part of that, and how we're going to lead and define where our customers are going. It's obviously something that we do not take lightly. And so what we're trying to present out there, and I think this is a great slide for you to take to your end users out there, and to give you a little bit of perspective of where technology providers are leading you as an integrator, which in turn you are now leading your customers as well, is that what we know right now is that video analytics is the next billion-dollar answer. I mean, it's the valuations are out there. It's on the front of IPVM. It's in everyday thing, in everyday Wall Street Journal and different technology magazines. Video analytics is $1 billion investment right now, and so it's got the money behind it, and it's got the legs to do that. So where we're from a technology standpoint, and what a lot of technologies do, we're out here trying to build a foundation large enough to carry the future weight of those analytics and what our customers may want or need. Okay, and so from a technology provider standpoint, what we're telling our customers out there is that we want to build a platform that's big enough that allows you and your customers to be able to, basically go through their microverse and build solutions, whether it's today, tomorrow, or down the road, by using the same building blocks as our foundation. Okay. Our goal as a technology provider is to provide more and easier access to video solutions for the entire organization. So we want to make those analytics easy to use, easy to interpret the data. We want to make sure that it's easy to access the video or access that analytical data through an iPad, an iPhone, or just through Google Chrome. Make it easy to access through your browser. Those are all things that we're trying to do as well. So when we look at the macroverse and how we're trying to make our technology fit there, we want to take those analytics, we want to make it easy to use, and we want to give as many people as possible to have access through that. Okay, because we want, as a technology provider for integrators, we want our integrators to be able to say, hey, we have technology partners that are creating a very simple and easy to use platform that allows unlimited people from your organization to access the video and access the video analytical data. Okay. And then we're also trying to be more creative on how we present video. So you as an integrator can be more creative in how your customers use the video. Okay. So what we're trying to do is that when we look at the different outlets and we talk to our different integrators out there, whether it's tying video to alarm data, whether it's tying to POS data, all these different things, we're trying to make it very simple for you guys to present out there. And when we're trying to be more creative with the video, we're trying to be more creative when it comes to how can we present our integrator channel with more RMR opportunities. How can we use video analytics or subscription-based software or subscription-based analytics or cloud-based subscriptions to provide more RMR revenue for our customers? Not only does it provide an easier price point for your customers to get into analytics or to the cloud space, it also provides you as the integrator a better channel to sell recurring revenue. And that's really as a technology provider, we're trying to make it easier for the end user to access the video analytics, and we're trying to make it easier for our integrator channel to provide RMR streams, to provide the technology on a more cost-effective basis, and to provide those end users with basically everything they want in one single platform. Okay, and so I wanted to walk you through a couple things here. These are and once again, the whiteboard, and it's my favorite whiteboard scenario to walk through that I've walked through today on the macroverse, the microverse, the endpoint, the jumping off points for that. But the other thing is how does this look in action? And so I took 3 scenarios where we collaborated with our integrators to find solutions for our retail customers and provide the solution there. So the first one is a arts and crafts store. One of our integrators came to us and said, hey, we want to take video analytics and then send alerts to their team, basically, to their store team to say, hey, we have people that are loitering. There were, high dollar items in these different areas of the store, and people would kind of hang out in those aisles, and then they would basically grab these expensive markers, walk out the front door with them. So what our integrator came up with a really great idea to have the video system tie into the store radio system And our integrator actually worked with our team to create a little app that allows that if somebody's loitering that aisle for longer than X amount of seconds, it basically kicks it over to the store radio system. It sends an audio alert to the store team. It says, hey, we have a customer that's loitering in aisle 7 or whatever it may be. It allowed the store team to be more efficient. And I know our integrators added some additional POV cameras and monitors in those aisles as well. So it turned out to be a really nice solution using video analytics to really help offset some of the theft that they were looking for. Okay, another one that we had came from one of our integrators that were looking to do help with checkout operations. And there's a lot of line queue analytics out there that are available directly on the camera or in maybe an on-prem server or cloud-based solution. So a lot of checkout operations that can be achieved there. So basically, one of our integrators came to us and said, hey, customers having staffing shortages, they don't know really what's going on, how long, there's always this kind of unsupported data that, hey, we have people that are waiting longer than X amount of time. And they were kind of getting this feedback from the stores, but they really couldn't provide hard data to the executive team on exactly what's going on in the stores. And so, we basically were working with them on developing being able to take the checkout line queue data and being able to upload that into a data form in an Excel sheet that their C-suite could look at and run some analytics on. So that's really, being able to kind of create a custom way for the end user to pull data out, really allowed our integrator to shine and say, hey, we were able to take an analytic you guys already had on your cameras, and we were able to provide a data point that could send it up to the system, whatever software system the retailer was using. We were able to create a data platform to help send that information out. And so it made the integrator look like a hero. And so that's really what our goal as a technology provider is, to make you guys look like heroes out there. Okay, and the last thing, one of our integrators came to us and said, hey, we have this end user that has, works with, obviously various metropolitan police departments across the country. They're starting to ask for more remote video access in case of an active threat situation. And so we were able to take a solution we already had in our solution that we use for the oil and gas industry. We kind of made some tweaks and rebranded as ProxyCast, so our integrator could present it, and so that our basically the technology teams for the police departments remotely could access video through a secure connection, one port and in the firewall from the home office for our retailer, and get video on demand if there happened to be a situation there. And so it was a checkbox that a lot of these police departments were asking for, that our integrator came to us and said, hey, we need to do this to help help them move into new metropolitan cities that for video access. And we were able to say, hey, well, we can create a solution called ProxyCast that allows them to kind of check that box, so that if they do need to have access to video remotely, if that police department does need to pull video in a live scenario, they'll have access to that. So once again, our goal and our job was to make the integrator look like the star, and we were able to do that as well. So there we go. So that's my portion of the presentation there, and I'm just jumping back to see if Keith, were you able to join?
I think I am. Can you hear me okay, Grant?
We can, Keith. Great. So Keith, we're excited to have you back on. So let me. So we're going to jump back here and let Keith do his portion. It's a little bit of reverse, but it's going to work out just fine.
Well, I appreciate it very much, Grant. Listening to you is definitely an education that I appreciate and love learning from. For those of you who have paid attention, I will tell you that hopefully you've got a lot of good notes to take away. I come from a little different perspective than Grant does. Although we work very closely together, my experience is in the retail vertical, and I would imagine some of you share a very similar experience. To me, I had the wonderful opportunity of working for Walmart Stores Incorporated for an entire career, starting out in the early 80s, which was really some of the earliest groundbreaking time for Walmart. And then after that, I had an opportunity to lead the efforts at the Home Depot and help them fix a tremendous shrink and profit loss challenge that they had. As a matter of fact, their shrink was the highest in their history. Within 2.5 to 3 years, we were able to lower that to the lowest in their history. And that number still stays the lowest to this day. We did it because we used tools. We had to develop many of those tools from scratch, as I'm sure many of you have. Or if you are an integrator, you've had to deploy those tools. Or if you are an intermediary, you are carrying those tools and helping those get proliferated throughout the retail industry. But a couple of things that are key is, as you know, things aren't getting any better. Crime, shrink, profit loss, profitability, staffing, customer count, merchandise flow, logistics, availability of product, the list goes on and on and on. And we are at a precipice in the retail industry where we are beginning to see things we've never seen or dealt with before in a cataclysmic way. And what I mean by that is, sure, some of us have seen low shrink. Some of us have seen labor issues. Some of us may have seen logistics issues. Some of us have seen a partial pandemic, but never have we seen all of those together in one wide world event. And we're experiencing those today. So my point to those of you out there who are end users, and my point to those of you who help deliver the tools, is that now is a time that you've got to make the best decisions in your life for your company's ability to progress and make it through this global challenge. And in order to do that, you have limited budget, you have limited staffing, you have incredible pressures. It's intense. My partners that I talk with are having to make decisions that they believe will impact and affect their ability to continue working for that company. Because if they make the wrong decision, it could be the end of their career with that particular company. And the reason is because we have to do more with less, and we have to do it better. So what I'm trying to tell you is something that you already know. I'm assured that you already know. And that is that risk has got to be managed proactively. If you are sitting back waiting for your exception analysis reports to tell you you have a problem, you have a bigger problem, because you should have anticipated, you and your team, either through internal diagnosis or through tools that you have on board, that you're getting ready to head towards a brick wall. If you're not proactively evaluating what those barriers are in the future, and you're reacting to the data that you're receiving telling you that you're in dire straits, you've got the model flipped. And what Grant was telling you is that there are tools that are available. There are platforms that are available. There are foundational building blocks that are available to help you determine proactively what your challenges may be that need to be addressed. I used to have this exercise with my people, and I say my people, my teammates, colleagues, when I was at Walmart and Home Depot. And we would literally take 3 to 5 hours, once a quarter, and we would get together in a room and we would have zero agenda except for one item. And that one item is, what are the unseen barriers? What are the unpredictable events? What are the unforeseen challenges that could happen to our organization in the next 3 to 5 years. And I'm telling you, we would have everything from asteroids striking the planet to UFOs and aliens coming in and taking over. But if you separated out some of the fun stuff, we really got to some meat, and we really got to some preventative activity, because we were able to project and figure out what some of those next trends might have been. And that helped us build in defensibilities early on. So that's critically important. Reactive response is not effective. Proactive tools is the key. And video management systems are the foundation. Grant said you build that addition on your house, and then you realize that the basement's about ready to collapse. So I would ask everyone to step back and take a look at that video management platform that you have, and make sure that it can support the tools that you need to be more proactive in what you do. All in all, what we try to do in the industry is allow our companies to succeed, allow our people to succeed, allow our stockholders to profit, allow our customers to be able to lower their cost of living, and doing all that, keeping ourselves employed and our teams employed. And I will say that we are here to do everything we can to help provide you tools that can enable you to build a better model. Grant and I are both available to answer any questions. And one thing that I will also offer that Salient allows me to do, which I think is the only company in the industry that does this. If you're a retailer and you'd like to have an extra set of eyes come into your organization and sit down with your leadership team, with you, with some of your internal partners, and allow a dialogue or discussion, or allow a second set of eyes to take a look at what you're doing, or what you may need to do, or what you can do better. I'm able to come visit your organization, and I'm able to sit down and share 20 plus years of executive loss prevention, asset protection, shrink leadership with you and your team to try to help you in support of the mission that you have ongoing at your organization. And it's zero cost to you. There's zero expectation that you'll do anything other than treat me well and give me the opportunity to engage with you and your team. And there have been multiple companies that have taken opportunity to do that. And I truly believe that we've had a success story for everyone. And if we did that with you, I'm sure we would have some takeaway points that would have you further down the path of profitability and success than you might have been just trying to go it on your own. So look at it as some additional help and support in what you and your company are trying to do. If you're interested in that, don't hesitate to reach out to me, Keith Obley. I'm at Salient, and my contact information should be on the screen in one of the slides. And with that, I'll turn it back over to our moderation team so that we can answer some questions and or try to resolve any of your problems.
Hey, Keith, excellent. Late, but worth the wait. Thanks for your contribution. We're going to get right to some question, guys, that have rolled in. I'm going to go ahead and just cite them, and then either of you jump in as you see fit. So let's get started here. How are retailers proving ROI or cost benefit when deploying analytics?
I think let me start and then I'll let Keith answer that. So I think, a lot of times from a technology standpoint, we're coming in and they're looking at, hey, we want to deploy these analytics, but we need to show ROI to our team ahead of time. And I think the biggest thing that I've realized is that when you look at that, if you go to using my or what I call it, the microverse, when you look at a customer's microverse, a lot of times they don't have the data points available or a way to suck data out of the system to provide that information. So I think as an integrator, the one thing from an integration side, I'm looking at what, basically before we even invest time and effort into figuring out how to do an analytics study or trying to determine the return on investment, is first trying to figure out how the customer can digest that data. I think that's a great, because Keith, correct me if I'm right or wrong, but a lot of our customers, our retailers, they don't necessarily all use the same data points from one company to another. They're always there's different ways that they model, or there are different ways that they look at the ROI. But I think the biggest thing is, before you invest the time and energy into it, you got to figure out how they use their data, right?
Yeah, there's, when we talk about return on investment, the first thing is that most of these financial committees that are making the decisions on technologies, whether it be internal to the asset loss prevention department or external, maybe it resides within the finance group, they don't really care. It could be a cash counting machine. It could be a electronic scale system back in produce. All they want to know is, how quickly are you going to get a return on those dollars? And they've got a good window that they normally operate off of that may be anywhere from 8 months to 20 months, and they want that projection to come in. The challenge when you're dealing with loss and shrink is that shrink, by its definition, is an unknown loss. That's the definition of shrink. So how do you quantify something that's unknown? It's like grabbing out and taking some of the atmosphere and putting it in your pocket, because you've got atmosphere, but you don't see the atmosphere. That's where we come in, because what we do is we can sit down and we can help break down what some of those advantages and some of those investment returns will look like based on the different type of analytics that we can deploy. And on top of that, we can also take a look at some of the ones that you currently have that will be enhanced with a renewed VMS platform system, or using some of the tools that we have as add-ons to what you've got. That's what we do best. I sat for 15, 20 years doing ROI modeling for every single implementation that we wanted to build internally or buy externally. So when it comes to that, we've got you covered there. We can help work with you and your team, but it's possible, it's doable, and we've done it on multiple occasions. A good question, by the way.
Excellent. Let's move on to the next one. What are the most popular video analytics your customers are asking for?
I think, I think when we go out there in the field, I think, the things that our customers are asking about are really the top of mind things. The questions that we get the most right now, curbside operations, like, how do we identify how long vehicles are staying in the curbside, where they bring bags out to you. That's a big one right now. And then I think, the other thing that our customers are really asking for is anything that's related to automating processes, kind of like, with the self-checkout scans. That's obviously huge right now, and being able to grab data from self-checkout scans. Anytime we walk into retailer, especially on the grocery store side, anything that we are talking about that's new related to self-checkout, that's instant. As an integrator, that's something you could instantly start getting some feedback on or getting some interest on, is self-checkout stuff. And then more so, a lot of our convenience stores, if you travel as much as I do, Hudson, the bookstores and the things at all the airports, they've gone in the past 60 days to a lot of these self-checkouts. If you look, and so whether it's convenience stores, everybody's moving to self-checkout. And so if you could bring anything that's relevant to self-checkout to your retailer, you're going to be an instant, basically provide some instant excitement from your customers?
Yeah, Grant, it's interesting. When you were giving that answer, I was writing down my notes, and self-checkout was the first one that I put on there. Last week, I was in Bentonville, Arkansas, attending meetings, and visited one of the Walmart prototype stores in Fayetteville, Arkansas, that is completely self-checkout. What a transformation. But I'm here to tell you, and you can write this down if you'd like, self-checkout is just one of the first phases of this transformation that we're going to see in retail. Within 5 years, you will not see any staff checkouts in the majority of all retail operations. It will be exactly what Grant's talking about. I was in the airport coming back 2 days ago. I went over and I bought a sandwich and a water, and I looked for a clerk. No clerk. You had to lay your items on a shelf, camera scan the barcode, you put in your payment, you took the items off of that little display area where all the data was captured. We're running analytics on dwell times. We're running analytics on self-checkout processing. All that automation and analytics are being used to get us to the next level. And that next level will ultimately result in there being no cash registers. And it'll be just like the prototypical stores that you see today, where you walk in, you grab the item off the shelf, you leave, your point of payment is already logged and scanned as you exit that property. That's where we're headed.
And let me add something here, Rodney. And Keith, back me up on this. I think we're at kind of a pivotal point here, especially on the, and obviously I'm a technology provider in the VMS space. I'm a manufacturer. And and we work exclusively through a reseller or an integrator channel. And there's a whole group of technologies out there that are, let's say, VMS adjacent, if you to kind of use a fun word, they are, whether it's self-checkout technologies, analytic technologies that are VMS adjacent. They're not, they're not a traditional security product. And what I see, there's going to be a point where, and a lot of these technologies are selling direct to retailers, and they're not going through an integrator channel. And I think we're at a pivotal point here as VMS providers and integrators, where if we're not out there presenting these solutions with existing video systems, there's going to be a whole separate category of products that's selling directly to retailers and bypassing the integrator channel. And so I think that's where it's very incumbent on us, Salient in our integrator channel and any other product in its integrator channel, to be, presenting these solutions as quick as possible to retail end users, because there's this whole other emerging marketplace of AI and self-checkout scanners that is selling directly to end users, and they're embedding themselves in retailers. And it's a little bit scary coming from our world, where we're kind of getting bypassed, and our integrators are getting bypassed on video solutions. So, and maybe Keith, you could add some color from the end user side on that.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely on target, Grant. We're seeing transformation that we've never seen before, just like we're seeing impactors and influencers into our business that we've never seen before. The rapid scale of change in this industry is unlike anything I have seen in the 30 years that I've been involved in it. Everything is changing. The way that we do everything is going to change. And you hit the nail on the head, that there's going to be a multiplicity of opportunities and challenges in that regard.
Guys, what is your typical time frame on ROI?
Yeah,
go ahead, Grant.
Yeah, I saw that question come. That's a really good question. And I think, from a technology side, and I think what an integrator needs to be prepared for is that, when I look at those type of things that we're trying to do is, typically it takes us 15 to 30 days to kind of model the analytics correctly. And so, because you definitely want to set the expectation when, I think one of the unperceived things that retailers don't really understand is that you can't just magically deploy a camera and have the analytics that's going to be perfect from day one. So we always try to set the timeline, say, hey, it's going to take us 15, 30 days to make sure we nail down exactly what you're looking for. And so it's been on day 31 through day 45 or day 60, let's start to gather those data points. And that's a really good expectation, I think, of setting with end users, so that they understand that right off the bat, you're not going to get the right data that you want, but give us 30 days to tweak it. And then and then from day 31 on, then let's start gathering data, and then we throw it into our ROI model.
Yeah, if I shot you a number right now, it would be a complete bold-faced lie, and here's why. If anybody comes up to you and guarantees you an ROI right off the bat without first seeking to understand, they're doing you and themselves a complete disservice. First off, every single retail application and every end user is completely different. We have to analyze what all those differences are, see how the application is going to work with what you have and what you need. But we take the time to make sure that the return on investment is sound as humanly possible, so that we're not misrepresenting you and setting you up for failure.
I think it's funny, Keith, is that you saw that question on the time frame for the ROI model. I looked at it from a technology guy on how long it takes for me to make sure that we're putting the right data points together. So I think that's the two different perspectives that you get on that is the time it takes to put the technology together right, but then from an end user, what it takes to actually get that model right, and not having to guarantee how many months it's going to take or years it takes to get your money back on it. So.
Yeah, it's an important question, but a many-layered answer for sure.
Absolutely.
Guys, we've got a couple minutes left. I'd like to try to slam in at least one or two more. As an integrator, how can I leverage cloud-based systems and services to generate RMR?
Yeah, great question. So I think, where we see our integrators right now is that, and from a technology provider standpoint, there's a couple different ways to move typical retail customers or any type of customer really, if from a perpetual, basically let's call it a CapEx dollar, it's buying, money with capital dollars into more of an OpEx budget customer buying on a monthly or yearly basis. And there's a couple different things that we see out there. First is that, we see customers that may have been traditionally used to a NVR or DVR purchase. Salient and other VMS providers are now offering subscription-based pricing, where it's monthly or yearly pricing versus a one-time upfront cost for software or for recording devices. The next category would be moving to cloud-based storage, cloud-based services. Being able to manage your typical management applications within the VMS to through a cloud portal. That's another way of inviting some RMR. A third category that's popping up now is basically AI-based or video analytics that are being using cloud services to run those and hosting those somewhere in the cloud. Those can be now instead of buying the analytics up front, like you may be used to through traditional video analytic providers. Now you can kind of offset those costs and just be charged monthly for the analytics that you use. So I think those are kind of three emerging areas. Subscription-based pricing for VMS, cloud-based services for the management side of things for the VMS, and then also for video analytics, moving to a cloud-based model that invites, instead of having those upfront payments, doing it on a monthly basis. And those are all great new revenue points for integrators out there.
Okay. Keith, did you have anything you wanted to say real quick?
That's Grant's wheelhouse. So I would just be filling the air with a lot of hotness.
All right. Well, gentlemen, that's all the time we have for the Q&A section. We hope you all enjoyed today's webcast. Once again, I want to thank Grant and Keith for sharing this time with us. Of course, I especially want to thank all of our attendees. A recording of this webcast will be available online at securitysales.com within 24 hours. We'd love to have your feedback, so please complete the survey coming right up at the end of this webcast. Have a wonderful rest of your day.